So Alex is great. I just want to make that really, really clear. I've had the opportunity through the Atlantic to interview a lot of people when I was a much younger journalist, and I had aspirations for what sort of journalist I wanted to be. There were certain names that were bandied about at that point: Darcy Frey, Catherine Boo, and at the top of the heap was Alex Kotlowitz. His book, There Are No Children Here, I don't know if anybody here has read it or how many of you have read it, but if you have not, you should. And one of the things that makes Alex's journalism so incredible is there's a lot of talk among people like me, reporters, writers, pundits, etc., about the issues of poverty and race in this country. And I think we can get mystified by numbers and statistics. 70% of people living like this, 50% of people living like this. What Alex excels at is putting a human face on those numbers. And I know when I was coming up, and even now, it's one of the things that I've taken as a lesson. So we're going to have a conversation today about storytelling, about how we go beyond those numbers, about how we put human faces on human problems. And we're going to start with a clip from a film Alex did, The Interrupters, which is about a group of activists in Chicago who go to some of the roughest areas of the city and do their best to interrupt conflicts that usually would result in a murder or a homicide. It's a great film. Alex, you want to give us some context?
Sure. Very quickly, just so you understand this 3.5-minute clip, what we're about to see is one of the interrupters, Kobe Williams. He gets a phone call from somebody he had spent time with in the county jail, a guy by the name of Flamo. And Flamo, it turns out, somebody had called the police on Flamo. They had told the police that Flamo had guns in his house. Police came to his house. Flamo wasn't home, but they ended up arresting his brother and handcuffing his mother. And Flamo was enraged, and he wanted revenge. And so we're about to see this clip. I just want to tell you there's some rough language in it, so be prepared. I'm sure.
No kids, right? Cover the ears, maybe.
I'm sure language you've all heard before. So let's play the video.
He left me a voicemail.
What up, Dave? I got some important news to talk to you about.
I got a call from a guy I met in jail. He said this guy sent the police into the house somehow he was doing illegal things.
Call me back.
Say the police kicked his door in, locked up his brother, they threw handcuffs on his mother. And he talking about he knew who had sent the police in this house. He is looking for him.
Hey, bang your bitch ass yesterday, nigga. Man, fuck that pussy ass nigga. What's up?
My man Flamo make you laugh, but if you fuck with him, you better bring it on.
These motherfuckers came here, man, had my motherfucking mama handcuffed, my little brother handcuffed and shit, man. Took my little brother, one got shot in the fucking wheelchair, man. Took him to jail.
But still though, man, you got to try to leave that shit alone though, man.
Leave the shit alone till I get these motherfuckers. You already know how I get in.
I mean, but that shit ain't gonna make no...
Boy, it's gonna make it better for me.
I'm sorry to hear about your brother, but still though, they don't make shit no better. They ain't gonna make shit no better though.
Fuck making it better. I'm walking around my fucking pistol. Can you grab my phone, brother? I can't,
Man, you crazy, man, be out here like that.
It's love and everything, but I ain't feeling none of this shit. And I respect y'all, you know what I'm saying, what you're doing and everything, that's cool. But fuck that. I'm not with ceasefire. What was y'all letting these motherfuckers can't kick in my door in?
What I'm saying is we can't erase what already happened, but the whole thing is you got to look at it like, man.
You can't erase what happened. You right. And you can't predict what the fuck I'm finna do.
You know, we just trying to work shit out.
You answers and solutions to the problem.
Man, fuck this shit. Fuck a problem. Fuck the solution. These motherfuckers trying to take my shit. You ain't just crossing me, you crossing my fucking mama. But my mama, nigga, I come in your crib and kill every motherfucker's body.
Sure, your brother's gone. If you be gone, that ain't gonna do nothing but hurt your mama.
She'll be alright.
How many kids you got?
I'm claiming 4.
All right, but I'm just saying, so if you go to jail, who will take care of your kids?
That's the thing. God taking care of us now. He gonna take care of them. Just like when I do what I'm gonna do, he gonna take care of me too.
But you was locked up before for the same shit, though.
Man, I'm 32 years old. I've been locked up 15 years in my life. What that mean? What the fuck that mean? That's where I grew up at. God damn it. Ain't no shame. Ain't no secret. Shit. I'm tired of being out here any motherfucker. It's bored as hell out here. Soft-ass niggas out here ain't doing shit but tricking. That ain't the police, is it? What's that on the corner? So I know these punk-ass police still want me. Motherfuckers gonna have to kill me.
Man, that shit crazy, man.
How can you help me? Right now. How can you help me?
I mean, the only thing, like I say, the only thing I can do is try to get to know you more, spend a little time with you, and try to work with you.
So that means you would take me out to dinner then? We can go to lunch right now, and we can sit down and we can talk about this motherfucking problem. That's what you telling me?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna hold you to that goddamn shit.
Yeah, we could go out.
When?
That's what you want to do.
When?
We could go out now.
Right now?
Yeah.
Let me go put my pistol up.
We'll just see. All right. Make sure, though, man, he ain't got shit on him.
I'm good. I ain't got nothing.
It's a rough one. I think that's one of the worst ones I had.
So, go ahead, you can applaud. Alex, I adore that clip, and I was kind of cringing because when I watched it with my wife, along with both African Americans, a very different environment being here. No disrespect to anybody in the crowd. It was a much more private moment, and we found ourselves laughing as we were watching it, which, I mean, I was watching it again, I was like, is there something wrong with laughing? But one of the things we talked about is, I think actually that laughter is very important. Because in that is the actual humanity. It's how you get away from the statistic. And I wondered how you felt when you were right there.
Right. You know, it's interesting. We thought, like Kobe, that it was a lost cause. I mean, it was clear this guy was just... In fact, when we went from here, we went to a restaurant where he was on a telephone trying to get bullets for his pistol. I mean, he was really out for revenge. But I love this moment because... it makes you squirm, it's unsettling, but what I love about it is it speaks so much to what Chimamanda Adichie talks about as the danger of the single narrative, that you think you know this person from this moment, when in fact you really know very little. And in fact, I thought I knew Flamo in this moment. You know, here he was, this angry young black man, and just filled with rage. And as I came to know him, and I don't want to give the film away, and you see as Kobe ends up spending time with him, and gets to know him, and you get to know Flamo as a full, rich, complicated human being. You realize the decency in him, the generosity in him, and his story actually takes a remarkable turn in the course of the months that we were filming, in a very good way. And so for me, this is kind of a reminder that not to think we know people when in fact we know very little. And Chimamanda actually talks about how, you know, show people one way over and over again, and that's who they become. And so what's important for me is to spend time with people and really get to know them. The other thing I love about this moment is, you know, Kobe does something so simple it's almost laughable. I mean, he takes him out to lunch, and then ultimately takes him out to dinner down the road, and you realize in the end all that Flamo wanted was someone to hear his story, someone to acknowledge his grievance, which is what Kobe does.
Did you start at daily newspapers?
Did I start at daily newspapers?
Yes.
I didn't start at, I started at an alternative newspaper, but I did work at the Wall Street Journal.
Okay. You've been involved in a good range of media at this point, and I wonder what you see as the obstacles toward allowing people more than a single narrative, and particularly, you know, in the area that you work in terms of African American, poor African American. What are the obstacles?
Right. Well, I think part of the obstacles in our profession, in journalism, is time, right? You go out into communities and you've got very little time with them. So if I were a daily newspaper reporter or a TV reporter, I'd go catch this moment. I think, oh my God, I got this great piece of film, this great clip, and go back and show it without really sort of understanding who it is behind Flamo. I mean, the other thing to keep in mind, we catch Flamo at this moment, you know, where he's been drinking, you know, he's filled with rage, and it also so much speaks to this idea that people become, especially in communities like this, become defined by the one singular moment in time.
And how do you, you know, I think like to, you know, be that sort of right, like you have to have a certain sensitivity. Did you, like, when you're coming up as a journalist, did you know this? Were you aware of this? Did you have this consciously in your head, I want to develop more complete characters, I want to give a more complete presentation? Was that there, or was that something you came to?
Well, it was only there in as much as I love fiction, and I love and I love storytelling, and so somehow and this is nothing new. I mean, this is, of course, was sort of part of what the new journalism was in the 1960s with Tom Wolfe and Gay Talese and Halberstam. But I wanted to somehow try to figure out to get as close to writing with the style and quality of fiction, and yet it be it nonfiction, to really try to sort of get at the soul of human beings. And it's not easy, and I realized when I started I didn't know what I was doing. It's an incredible intrusion in people's lives. It can be, and it can be really discomforting for them and for me as well.
Well, one of the things, I mean, to do this kind of journalism, you end up having to spend a great amount of time with people. How do you get them comfortable with that fact?
Well, sometimes it's hard. I mean, I do go in and I tell people often that, you know, I'm going to have to come back over a course of weeks, months, even sometimes years. And I've had the experience where even though I tell people and warn people, they'll still get upset at some point along the way and say, enough is enough. Why do you need all this? But I think in the end, you know, what you're trying to do is, and this is kind of a centripetal force of storytelling, is try to find empathy. And I think the only way to find empathy is to really spend time with people, to really get to know them in as deep and as rich a way as you can.
You've been reporting in Chicago for a number of years. Chicago has been in the news over the past few years for some not good reasons. I wonder how you feel the country at large, and I guess maybe I would say national media, maybe throw some politicians in there too, are doing in developing that kind of empathy and giving a full portrait of the city.
Right. Yeah. Well, we're not doing a very good job. I always remember actually when President Obama first began his run for presidency, he would give these speeches about the empathy gap, and people would roll their eyes. I don't think people knew what he was doing. He knew enough to stop talking about it, but what he recognized, I think in a very fundamental way, is that sort of empathy is what ultimately creates community. You know, the ability to sort of spend time, to imagine yourself as somebody else, to take that leap of faith and try to imagine what it's like to be African American growing up in an Englewood, not too far incidentally from the Whole Foods, or what it's like to be gay or a new immigrant. And we are a country that, despite the fact that we like to think we're all in this together, are really pretty disconnected from each other. And so for me, storytelling and this notion of empathy is the one way to find those connections.
Are you aware of having to do that for the reader, like having to get the reader into that world? I mean, even in writing about Chicago, okay, you think you know Chicago, but you don't. Right. You don't really.
Yeah, I'm always thinking about it. I'm always thinking about my readers and how distant and disconnected they are, and also all the assumptions that they bring to the table. And I think that's really important. And I think the other part of it is, which you did so beautifully in your reparations piece, is to sort of understand context, to understand history, how it is you get to a certain place in time, whether it's how Flamo gets to this moment, how his neighborhood has gotten to this moment in time. It's absolutely essential, I think, as writers, as storytellers, as journalists, that we try to make an effort to sort of understand how the past has so influenced the present and is so still with us.
So we were having this conversation backstage about personal responsibility versus systems, and I just want to finish up by asking you, in terms of journalism, do you feel like there's an appetite for that sort of empathy, for that sort of deep, portraiture, and, journalistic institutions aren't doing what they need to do to provide the time, or is it that the audience is actually not that large for it?
Yeah, I guess I'm the eternal optimist and like to think that there's a real appetite for that. I mean, it's why we go to the movies, it's why we read fiction, it's why we tell each other stories, is because we're trying to get people to sort of understand who we are. And so I think, in fact, it's in some ways, not the only way, but the most direct way to get people to spend time in places they otherwise wouldn't venture. I mean, stories are all about trying to sort of understand who we are, as Chimamanda said, but also try to understand the others, people unlike ourselves.
Okay. Well, look, guys, I'm going to finish up just where I started, and that is that Alex is great. You should see The Interrupters. You should read There Are No Children Here, and he has some other projects coming up. I don't know if I should talk about them or not, but you should be on the lookout for him. This is one of our great American journalists. Thank you so much. Thank you.